What if I told you your brain is a time traveler and it's secretly editing time? Not the sci-fi kind with flux capacitors, but in the way it bends, stretches, and compresses time itself. Intriguing, right? The seconds you're living right now might not be as long or as short as you think. Welcome to the strange world of temporal illusions, where your brain becomes the ultimate trickster. It's your mind's universe. Time is whatever you make it. Let's get into the video. Your perception of time isn't kept by a single clock in your head. Instead, it's a network spread several brain regions. The suprachiasmatic nucleus in your hypothalamus acts like your master biological clock, syncing your body with the day-night cycle. The cerebellum fine-tunes microsecond timing, helping you walk, speak, or play music in rhythm. The prefrontal cortex organizes time for decision-making, planning, and memory. These regions process events, rhythms, and sensory cues. But here's the twist. They're prone to distortion. And it doesn't stop there. The basal ganglia help you estimate short intervals, while the hippocampus stitches events together, creating the mental timeline of your life. Together, these regions act like an orchestra. If one instrument is out of sync, your sense of time changes. Scientists at University College London found that when people are intensely focused during a car chase scene in a movie, time seems to slow down. But under stress, let's say, in a work environment, milliseconds can stretch into what feels like minutes or hours. Your brain is taking in more sensory data than normal, like a camera switching to slow motion mode. Scientists found that when people are highly focused, time seems to slow down. But under stress, milliseconds can stretch into what feels like minutes. Interestingly, your brain can even run multiple clocks at once, one keeping track of seconds ticking by, another measuring the pace of an activity, and yet another estimating how much time has passed in your day. Which clock do you think is the most real? Or are they all just illusions stacked together? In the theater of your mind, the clock is never the same for everyone, and sometimes not even the same for you. The 3 mind-bending time illusions. Your brain has a lot of clever ways to bend time sometimes without you even noticing. These 3 fascinating illusions may feel like magic, but they're rooted in real neuroscience. The chronostasis effect, first described in the 1970s by Hughes, Mitchell, and others in studies on visual perception. Studies show chronostasis isn't limited to clocks. It happens in auditory perception. Sounds feel extended after shifts in attention, and even tactile sensation, first touches, can feel longer. Experiments consistently show the brain can retroactively stretch time by up to half a second. That's a huge distortion, considering normal reaction time is about 200 milliseconds. Ever glance at a clock and notice the second hand seems frozen? That's chronostasis, a delay in your brain's visual processing. It often happens right after you move your eyes quickly. Your brain fills in the missing visual information by stretching the moment you first look. It only happens when your eyes move rapidly in what's called a saccade. Researchers have measured this stop clock effect lasting up to half a second, long enough to trick your sense of time without you realizing it. The oddball effect. In 2004, psychologists discovered the oddball effect. When something unexpected happens, your brain processes it more deeply, making time feel stretched. Have you ever noticed how a sudden fire alarm in a quiet room feels like it goes on forever? In lab experiments, participants consistently judged oddball images or sounds to last 30–50% longer than standard ones. Why? That's because your attention system goes into overdrive, collecting more sensory data to process. The Vierort's law, discovered in 1868 by Carl Vierort. This law states that we tend to overestimate short intervals and underestimate long ones. In one experiment, people asked to estimate a 2-second tone often said it lasted longer, while a 20-second tone was consistently judged as shorter. It's as if your brain has a built-in time compression function for long events and a time expansion function for short ones. How ironic is that? What's fascinating is that you've likely experienced all 3 of these illusions, sometimes in a single day, hours, or minutes. Have you ever had a moment feel so long, and then later, the whole day feels like it vanished? Let us know in the comments below. Your brain's clocks are never perfectly synchronized, and that's exactly what makes time perception such a strange, slippery thing. So, You have to ask yourself, if your brain can bend time without you knowing, how sure are you that the time you feel right now is even real? Your brain doesn't just measure time, it predicts it. Every moment, your mind is making forecasts about what's about to happen based on patterns and memory. This is why a favorite song's rhythm feels so satisfying. Your brain has already predicted the next beat. Imagine you're in a car accident. Everything seems to move in slow motion, but here's the twist, nothing actually slowed down. Your brain simply processed more information per second, giving you the illusion of time stretching. Scientists call this time dilation. It's the same phenomenon astronauts experience at high speeds in Einstein's relativity, but here, it's happening in your head. Your brain's temporal resolution can speed up under stress, fear, or extreme focus. And it's not just emergencies. Ever notice how a joyful vacation seems to vanish in a blink, while waiting in a doctor's office feels eternal? That's your brain's hedonic time distortion. At work, pleasure compresses time, boredom expands it. The illusions don't stop there. Remember the famous chronostasis effect? When you glance at a clock, the first second appears frozen. That's your brain stitching together the gap caused by your eyes' rapid movement, literally creating a fake moment in time. So here's the real question. If your mind can warp time this much, how much of your past and future is a true memory, and how much is an illusion it created to make sense of the world? Let's try something. Focus on your breathing. Inhale, exhale, and for the next 15 seconds watch the screen without looking away. Ready? Go. Did that feel longer than it should? You just stretched time in your mind. Welcome to temporal dilation. If you enjoyed this little experiment, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share The Curious Explorer with someone who loves discovering the strange ways our brains work. Your support helps us keep exploring the mysteries of the mind. While temporal illusions can be fascinating, they also have a darker edge. One example is how trauma can warp our perception of time. Victims of accidents or violence often describe moments stretching into an endless slow-motion nightmare, the brain's hyper-awareness making every detail painfully vivid. On the flip side, long stretches of depression or anxiety can blur time entirely, leaving weeks or months feeling like a single heavy, colorless day. Even in daily life, distorted time perception can quietly shape dangerous behaviors. Gamblers lose hours at a slot machine because their internal clock is paused by the rush. Social media apps intentionally exploit micro delays and variable rewards to keep you scrolling far longer than intended, hijacking your brain's sense of time for profit. There's also a psychological danger. Time distortion can alter how we remember events. Studies show that when time feels stretched during intense moments, the brain doesn't just store more detail. It can actually rewrite or exaggerate parts of the memory. This means two people can experience the same moment but remember entirely different timelines. In extreme cases, this distortion fuels false memories, convincing someone that something happened faster, slower, or even differently than it really did. The unsettling truth? Time is not always a neutral companion. Sometimes it's a manipulator, and we don't even notice it slipping away. Have you ever looked up from your phone or a game, shocked to realize hours had vanished? What if you could see the true cost of those missing hours in your life? Which would you choose? So far, we've explored how our brains distort time in everyday life, emergencies, and memory. But what if we could harness this power deliberately? Scientists and technologists are already experimenting with ways to manipulate temporal perception for real-world benefits. For example, in virtual reality therapy, patients recovering from phobias or PTSD can experience stretched or compressed time to safely process traumatic events. Research at the University of Barcelona showed that VR sessions where time is artificially slowed improved patient response by 30% compared to real-time simulations. In education and skill acquisition, slowing down perceived time could enhance learning. Our brains encode more information per second during these extended moments, potentially allowing faster mastery of complex skills. Some neuroscientists predict that future brain-computer interfaces could directly modulate temporal perception to optimize productivity or training. Even in the realm of health, regulating temporal perception could help patients with Parkinson's or ADHD. Studies show these conditions involve misalignment in the brain's timing networks, effectively a biological time warp that impacts motor control and attention. By correcting these distortions, therapies could restore normal rhythm and focus. And the most speculative but fascinating frontier, human longevity. If we could stretch our subjective experience of time, we might perceive a longer life, packing more moments into each day without increasing chronological age. While this remains theoretical, it's rooted in the same neuroscience principles that explain why a thrilling experience feels longer than a mundane one. The question remains, how far should we go in bending our own perception of reality? As technology advances, the line between science and what we once thought of as magic is disappearing. Researchers are exploring ways to hack our sense of time, from VR that speeds up workouts to brain stimulation that could help patients with Parkinson's. Some futurists suggest we could enhance learning, extend subjective lifespan, or make painful experiences feel shorter. Time isn't just ticking away, it's being built in your mind, moment by moment. And once you realize that, you might start to see every second differently. If you enjoyed this dive into temporal illusion, hit that like button and subscribe. Share this with someone who's always saying time flies.